we're going to be looking today at the themes that we see in Salt of the Sea. In the very beginning of the book, we see them right away, and we're going to see them throughout the story. Okay, and so look at this quote: "Those who are gone are not necessarily lost." This is actually going to relate to this quote that's on the front cover of the book. It's actually going to relate to one of the themes that we see throughout the story. So, very often in good writing, we see themes. We might see a theme of family through the story. What exactly is family? How does a character find their family? Maybe they've lost their family. Heroism, right? And sometimes trauma. Somebody who overcomes trauma goes from a good life to a traumatic life, and then comes back on the other side, or they start with trauma and they go back through that. So these are very common themes, but let's look a little bit deeper, because this book definitely goes deeper on themes, and there's 4 main themes that we're going to see throughout the story. So the first one is really agency, willpower, and fate. All right, and we have the fate of being born in 1930s Germany, and then you have the Nazi occupation, and your life, your fate is going to depend on who you're born to, what nation you're born in. And this determines the outcome of a lot of people. We can't change fate, right? Fate is that moment, it's a situation. Okay. And so right away with fate, we see it on pages 5 through 8. We see it with Amelia and Alfred. Fate, right? With Amelia, who is, we learn on page 5, she says, 15, I whispered, please, I'm not German. Nicht Deutsch. She's not German. Her fate is to be born not German. Right? So then we have to wonder, well, who's she talking to who's speaking German to her? And that becomes part of the story. So we're introduced to the different sides, and she's being approached by a Soviet soldier at that point. Right? And then we have willpower that we're going to see. How does somebody who's born into a bad situation have the willpower to overcome that? And that becomes a major theme throughout the story. All right, the next one that we're going to look at throughout the story is storytelling and fantasy. And this is how our characters survive. How do you get through? This story doesn't talk much about the concentration camps of World War II, but think about it. How do you survive something like that? How do you fight, even for the civilians during World War II, in many of the occupied lands, and in Germany and the Soviet Union, definitely. How do you survive one of the coldest winters and no food, no fuel? How do you get through that time and keep your mind, keep your sanity? And again, excuse me, we see this with Amelia, and we see this with Alfred. Storytelling and the fantasy. The third theme that we see in this book is memory and survival, right? And so we start off the book with the memory with Joanna on page 1. My conscience mocked me, picking fighters like a petulant child. It's all your fault, the voice whispered. So she's remembering some event. We just don't know what the event is, but that memory is haunting her. Whereas other characters in the story, we're going to find out, have positive memories that carry them through. So a memory can be positive, and a memory can lift you up, and a memory can also haunt you and tear at you. All right. And then we see with Florian, we're going to see in that hunter theme, right? Fate is a hunter. So there again is that theme of fate and survival, right? When he hears the engines buzzed in a swarm above. The Schwarztard, the Black Death, they called them. I hid beneath the trees. The planes weren't visible, but I felt them close, right? And so he's learned how to survive. He knows what those planes mean. He knows what he has to do to survive those planes, that attack that's coming in. And so we're going to see that throughout the story. How do these people choose to survive? What steps are they taking? In fact, this whole story is based on the survival of people trying to leave on German ships that are going to take them to the safety of the actual original uh, country of Germany, not the German occupied lands, as the Soviet Union forces are moving further and further west to take Berlin and lead to the surrender of Germany. The story is also written, the author, especially in the afterword, makes a point to say that this is written for the people, in memory of the people who did not survive, and in memory of the people who did survive, what they went through and what they lost. And then the fourth theme that we see is it's really three themes that we see. So you have family and you have community, right? We think of those as positive, depending on what your community is, right? But community usually gives you a positive feeling. And then we see selfishness. And very quickly, you're going to start to feel and apply these themes to different people. Okay, so we're going to see Joanna, Florian, and Alfred right in the first 8 pages. We're going to see these themes of family, community, and selfishness. And the author wants you to examine these themes. The author expects that you're going to start to group the characters based on these themes. Who seems to follow the theme of family? Who seems to be more focused on a theme of joining a community? And who definitely seems to have the idea of me, that selfishness, I'm going to survive. And it's not always just one character. It's going to switch around as we read this story. This is an excellent story to dive deeper. The next thing that we're going to look at are the symbols that we're going to see throughout the story.